Have you ever wondered how the US-Iran conflict began? The genesis of this tumultuous relationship can be traced back to the mid-20th century. It was a time of political upheaval and shifting power dynamics, with the world's superpowers vying for control over strategic resources. Let's rewind to the year 1953. Iran was under the reign of Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. He nationalized the Iranian oil industry, which until then was under British control. This move didn't sit well with the Western powers, particularly the United States and the United Kingdom. They orchestrated a coup d'etat, replacing Mossadegh with the more Western-friendly Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. This event, known as Operation Ajax, was the first significant interference by the US in Iranian affairs, marking the onset of a strained relationship. Fast forward to the year 1979 when the Iranian Revolution took place. The Shah was ousted, and in came Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, a religious leader who established an Islamic republic. The revolution was a backlash against the Shah's pro-Western policies and the perceived foreign control over Iranian resources. It represented a fundamental shift in Iran's political and social structure and had far-reaching implications for its relationship with the United States. Now, let's talk about oil, that precious black gold. Iran, being one of the largest oil producers in the world, holds significant sway in the global energy market. The US, as one of the largest consumers of oil, has a vested interest in the region. The competition for control over oil resources has been a constant undercurrent in the US-Iran relationship, often exacerbating their political disputes. Lastly, regional power dynamics play a crucial role. Iran, with its strategic location and abundant resources, has long aspired to be a regional hegemon. The US, on the other hand, has sought to curb Iran's influence to maintain its own geopolitical interests and those of its allies in the Middle East. Thus, the seeds of the US-Iran conflict were sown, setting the stage for decades of tension. This tension is a complex web of political, economic, and regional factors that we will continue to unravel in the following scenes. Stay tuned. The 1979 hostage crisis marked a turning point in US-Iran relations. This dramatic episode unfolded when a group of Iranian students stormed the United States Embassy in Tehran, taking 52 American diplomats hostage. For 444 days, the world held its breath as negotiations for their release hit numerous dead ends. Now, the hostage crisis was not just a random act of aggression. Instead, it was a calculated political move, a response to the US's decision to grant asylum to the deposed Shah of Iran, Mohammad Reza Pahlavi. This act of defiance against the US was a symbol of the newly established Islamic Republic's resistance against Western influence and intervention. The crisis strained US-Iran relations to their breaking point. In response, the United States severed diplomatic ties with Iran and imposed a series of economic sanctions. These sanctions, initially aimed at securing the release of the hostages, have since evolved into a complex web of restrictions that have had lasting effects on Iran's economy and its people. In the aftermath of the crisis, the animosity between the two nations was palpable. The US viewed Iran as a rogue state, a threat to global security. Iran, on the other hand, saw the US as an imperial power, intent on undermining its sovereignty. This mutual distrust has been a constant in their interactions since then, influencing their diplomatic, economic, and military strategies. Despite the release of the hostages after the signing of the Algiers Accords in 1981, the scars of the crisis remain. The US's stringent sanctions have continued, and Iran's resentment towards American intervention has not diminished. The crisis, thus, set the stage for the tumultuous relationship that we see today. The hostage crisis left an indelible mark on US-Iran relations, shaping their future course. It's an event that continues to reverberate through the corridors of power in both Washington and Tehran, a stark reminder of the deep-seated tensions that lie at the heart of the US-Iran conflict. The issue of nuclear weapons has been a constant thorn in the side of US-Iran relations. The nuclear question, a complex web of science, politics, and fear, is an integral part of the US-Iran conflict. Iran's nuclear program dates back to the 1950s, a time when the world was gripped by the Cold War. Initially, the program focused on nuclear energy, but as years passed, concerns grew about Iran's intentions. Suspicions about the possibility of Iran developing nuclear weapons became a global concern, with the US leading the charge. The international community feared that a nuclear-armed Iran could destabilize the Middle East, posing a significant threat to global security. In response to these concerns, a historic agreement, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA, was unveiled in 2015. It was a deal between Iran and 6 global powers: the US, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Russia, and China. The JCPOA had one clear goal: to limit Iran's nuclear program in exchange for the lifting of economic sanctions. This agreement signaled a potential thaw in US-Iran relations and the possibility of a more stable Middle East. However, in 2018, the US, under President Trump, withdrew from the JCPOA, sparking a fresh wave of tension. The US argued that the deal was flawed and that it didn't do enough to restrain Iran's nuclear ambitions or its influence across the Middle East. The withdrawal was followed by a re-imposition of severe sanctions against Iran, pushing the two nations back into a cycle of conflict. Iran, feeling betrayed and cornered, began to scale back its commitments under the JCPOA. This move further escalated tensions and raised the stakes in the ongoing conflict. Despite numerous attempts to salvage the deal, the JCPOA's future remains uncertain. The nuclear question remains a contentious issue, fueling the flames of the US-Iran conflict. As we move forward, the complexities of this issue continue to cast a long shadow over the future of US-Iran relations and the broader dynamics of the Middle East. The tension between the US and Iran has escalated in recent years. This statement could not be truer. The past few years have seen a series of events that have further strained the already tense relationship between these two nations. One of the most noteworthy incidents was the assassination of Qasem Soleimani, a top Iranian military commander. This move by the US, deemed a decisive defensive action, sent shockwaves around the globe. Soleimani was not just a military leader, he was a national figure in Iran, and his death sparked widespread outrage and mourning throughout the country. This event marked a significant escalation in the conflict, pushing the two nations to the brink of war. Simultaneously, the US has been implementing a strategy known as the maximum pressure campaign. This involves imposing stringent economic sanctions on Iran with the aim of pressuring them into renegotiating the nuclear deal. The sanctions have had a crippling effect on Iran's economy, leading to widespread discontent among the population and increasing anti-US sentiment. In response to these actions, Iran has taken a defiant stance. The country has ramped up its nuclear activities, breaching the terms of the 2015 nuclear deal. This move is seen as an attempt to put pressure on the other signatories of the deal to provide relief from the US sanctions. Iran has also retaliated militarily, launching missile attacks on US bases in Iraq following Soleimani's assassination. These recent developments have not only heightened the tension between the US and Iran, but also created a climate of uncertainty. It's clear that the relationship between these two nations is more strained than ever, with each action and reaction pushing them further apart. This situation leaves the international community in a state of unease, as the potential consequences of this escalating conflict could be far-reaching. These recent developments have further complicated the US-Iran relationship, leading to a climate of uncertainty. As we continue to monitor the situation, it remains to be seen how these events will shape the future of US-Iran relations. Regional allies have played a significant role in the US-Iran conflict. Indeed, this geopolitical chess match is not a two-player game. It's a complex web of alliances and rivalries that extends far beyond the boundaries of Iran and the United States. Let's turn our focus to Israel and Saudi Arabia, two of the United States' most prominent allies in the Middle East. Their role in this conflict is of paramount importance. Israel, with its long-standing tensions with Iran, has been vocal in its support for the United States' hardline stance. It perceives Iran's nuclear ambitions as an existential threat, and has thus welcomed the US's efforts to curtail them. Saudi Arabia, on the other hand, views Iran as a regional rival. The Sunni-majority kingdom has been locked in a proxy war with Shia-majority Iran for decades, fighting for influence in the Middle East. The United States' pressure on Iran has therefore been beneficial to Saudi Arabia's regional aspirations. Now, let's shift our gaze to Iran's sphere of influence. Iran has adeptly used proxy forces to extend its reach across the Middle East, from Hezbollah in Lebanon to the Houthi rebels in Yemen. These proxies provide Iran with a way to push back against its rivals without resorting to direct military confrontation. It's a strategy that has allowed Iran to wield significant influence in the region, even in the face of crippling economic sanctions. Yet this intricate network of alliances and rivalries does more than just shape the dynamics of the US-Iran conflict. It also complicates any potential solutions. Each actor has its own interests and objectives, which can sometimes conflict with those of its allies. Navigating this complex landscape requires a nuanced understanding of the region's politics and a delicate balancing act. So, as we can see, the US-Iran conflict isn't just about these two nations. It's a broader struggle for power and influence in the Middle East. The involvement of regional allies adds another layer of complexity to the US-Iran conflict. It's a chess match where every move reverberates across the board, influencing the strategies and actions of all the players involved. What does the future hold for US-Iran relations? This is a question that many are asking, but one to which there is no easy answer. The future of this long-standing conflict is contingent on a multitude of factors that are as unpredictable as they are complex. For instance, changes in US leadership can significantly sway the direction of these relations. As history has shown us, different administrations bring distinct foreign policy approaches. Some may adopt a more hardline stance, opting for stringent sanctions and a firm military presence in the region. Others might prefer diplomatic negotiations, seeking to resolve tensions through dialogue and mutual agreement. Simultaneously, Iran's internal dynamics are equally pivotal. The country's political landscape is continually evolving, with varying degrees of influence wielded by conservative hardliners and more reform-minded factions. The balance of power within Iran can drastically alter its stance towards the US and its willingness to engage in diplomatic discourse. Moreover, the future of US-Iran relations will also depend on the broader geopolitical context. Global power shifts, regional conflicts, and the actions of other key players on the international stage will undoubtedly influence the trajectory of this complex relationship. For instance, the role of China and Russia, both of whom have strategic interests in Iran, could be decisive. Similarly, the position of European countries, especially those that are party to the Iran nuclear deal, will also be instrumental. Finally, we must also consider the unpredictable nature of global crises such as pandemics or economic downturns. These unforeseen events can act as catalysts, sparking significant changes in the geopolitical landscape and subsequently US-Iran relations. Thus, as we look to the future, we must acknowledge the intricate web of factors that will shape the course of US-Iran relations. It's a delicate dance of geopolitics, where a single misstep could have far-reaching consequences. The future of US-Iran relations remains uncertain, with many variables at play. As observers, we can only watch, analyze, and hope that the path ahead leads to peace and stability in the region. Let's recap the key points we've discussed about the US-Iran conflict. The genesis of this conflict is rooted in historical events, dating back to the mid-20th century. The political dynamics of the era, particularly the Cold War, played a significant role in shaping the relationship between the United States and Iran. The deposition of Iran's Prime Minister Mossadegh in 1953, orchestrated by the CIA, ignited a chain of events that still reverberate today. The hostage crisis of 1979 marked a turning point, deepening the animosity and mistrust between the two nations. The fallout from this crisis has had a lasting impact, influencing US-Iran relations for decades to come. The nuclear question is another pivotal aspect of this conflict. Iran's pursuit of nuclear power has been a contentious issue, with the US and its allies expressing grave concerns about the potential for nuclear weapon development. The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA, sought to address these concerns, but its future remains uncertain. Recent developments, including the US withdrawal from the JCPOA and the assassination of General Soleimani, have escalated tensions and further complicated the situation. These events have not only affected US-Iran relations, but have also had ripple effects across the Middle East and beyond. The role of regional allies cannot be overstated. Saudi Arabia and Israel, among others, have significant stakes in this conflict, and their actions and reactions play a crucial role in shaping the course of US-Iran relations. Looking forward, the future of US-Iran relations is uncertain. The potential for diplomatic resolution exists, but it is overshadowed by the risk of further escalation and conflict. The choices made by both nations in the coming years will undoubtedly have profound implications for regional stability and global geopolitics. As we've seen, the US-Iran conflict is a complex issue with deep historical roots and far-reaching implications.